I think he's a certifiable bad guy because he just came on and started laughing at me and said, how you feel? And couldn't even get the sentence out before cackling in his palatial Denver estate. So how are you feeling, Stink?
I'm feeling great. There was two things I thought about during that game as it was winding down. One, did Bill Belichick watch this game, or was he like playing fetch with his dog? And two, I need to text Nick Wright. Those were the two things I thought. And then I thought, that's just me. That is just me. So I'm not going to do that right now. But I did think about you yesterday.
That's great. I'm glad. I think a lot of America thought about me yesterday while they were laughing. And the members of America that weren't laughing at me, it's because they were texting me because I owed them money. So it's just great for everyone except me. All right. So I don't think anybody saw this coming. Even if you picked the Bucs, Joy said this earlier, she's right. Nobody saw this coming. So how did this happen?
Well, I think there's several things. Now, Tampa Bay, their defense is remarkable at all three levels. They've got great defensive players, great team speed. But I think ultimately the way this happened, this to me is a lot of football hubris. This to me is we can have multiple changes, three different guys up front on our offensive line change positions. We still think we can get five guys out at all times, block 5-0 protection, and we're going to be okay. And that's just not the case. I don't think Andy Reid did a good job of coaching. And I'm telling you, he's been phenomenal the last several years. But in this particular instance, in this particular game, Tampa Bay played a too high safety look the entirety of the game and basically begged you to run the ball. You gave your running back 9 carries. He averaged 7.1 yards per carry, and he only touched the ball 9 times. So that, to me, is not taking advantage of what the defense is giving you and then ultimately not mitigating your own issues. Like this, to me, is saying we're going to win the way we win with our quarterback and get 5 guys out. And you didn't take into consideration that you've had massive changes along your line of scrimmage, and you did nothing to mitigate that potential disaster. You basically said, we're going to play it the way we play it. And you took, pressure from a 4-man front, disruption of routes, cover 2 man a bunch or cover 2. There was always 2 safeties deep. This to me was a failure of coaching more than it was anything else.
There was some game plan arrogance there that, listen, I was arrogant going into the week. I thought, listen, guess what? You know how you stop the Chiefs? Nobody knows because nobody's done it. They score 30 points when they want to. They go on these basketball-style runs. And I thought, while it sounded bad for missing 4 starting offensive linemen, in my head, I'm like, well, 3 of those guys have been gone basically all year. So it's 1 offensive lineman that you're missing from last week when you dismantled the Bills and Eric Fisher. And I thought the Chiefs would be able to overcome in that regard. As an offensive lineman, Stink, one of the stats that jumped out at me, the Chiefs blocked with just 5 on 92% of dropbacks. Yeah. That means from start to finish, they were not helping their guys. How surprised were you that they didn't adjust within the game? Even if they had one game plan going in, you have that long halftime. How surprised were you they didn't make the adjustment at any point?
Well, I was very surprised, but that's who the Chiefs are. And it's like, we're going to win the way we win. And ultimately, you couldn't do that. I thought Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, did a great job of disrupting routes, disrupting the timing of the passing game, and then ultimately finding ways to get pressure, changing fronts, changing positions, using stunts, twists, and games to get to Patrick Mahomes. And, ultimately you could see even when Patrick Mahomes had time in a drop back, he didn't have guys open immediately. And I think, again, I look at that going, how do you not run the football when they're begging you to run the football? How do you not run it? We used to have this theory. If they're going to play us in too high, we're going to cram it down their throats until we get them out of that and get our one-on-one matchups on the outside. They just never forced the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to do anything other than they came into the game plan wanting to do. And the end result is, they scored 9 points. I can't believe as a football analyst that that's what happened, but it's exactly what happened.
How would you grade Patrick Mahomes on his day?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately you look at Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I don't look at this like, hey, Patrick Mahomes failed. Here in Denver, where I live, people are like, oh, okay, now we've tamed the beast. Now we know how to beat him. Well, listen, you've got to have a certain style of play to be able to do that, and a certain style of player. And I thought, Levante David, I thought when he was asked to play man coverage on Travis Kelce, he was remarkable. He was exceptional. I thought Devin White was incredible, running down guys sideline to sideline, doing what he does. And then I just thought, from my standpoint, it was more about Tampa and the lack of understanding or the lack of willing to adjust by the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, it comes down to football hubris. We're going to win the way we always win. And to me, not taking advantage of what Tampa was asking you to do. They were saying, go on a 10-play drive, average 6 yards a carry, set up a play action, and we'll tip our cap to you because you're going to score if you do that. But they just refused to do that. They just said, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to win the way we win. And ultimately, it cost them a football game.
Mark Schlereth with us, of course, FS1 analyst. So, Stink, on the other side of things, I want to talk about Brady. And sometimes we give the quarterback too much credit, obviously. But also, when you talk to guys on the team, it does seem like, to a man, there was a level of faith, confidence, and inspiration that came from the acquisition of Tom Brady. You won 2 of your championships with a Mount Rushmore-ish quarterback in John Elway. And even at, he won those the last 2 years of his career when he was not as far as if we're doing Madden rating, the Madden rating that Elway was in the late 80s, early 90s. But how much confidence was filtered through the rest of the team just by having that guy back there as your signal caller?
Oh, it's huge. Anytime you have a guy like that, a Mount Rushmore quarterback, as you mentioned, it's one of those situations that regardless of where we find ourselves, we've got a guy that can make a play that will get us into the right play, that we have ultimate confidence in, that in those crunch time situations, he's just going to make a play. And from a leadership standpoint, this is a team that knew how talented they were, but just didn't have that piece in place. Where Tom Brady, I mean, Bruce Arians, I'll give Bruce Arians a ton of credit. Tip your cap to him because he understood that I can coach this team and I can say something and they go kind of in one ear and out the other. But Tom Brady can reiterate it. He can say the exact same thing I just said, and everybody's like, okay, Tom, whatever it takes. And I thought it was funny early in the season when Bruce Arians cussed out Tom Brady, called him out publicly, and everybody's like, oh, that's not going to go well. Yeah. I mean, that's how Tom Brady's been coached his whole life. And if you know Bruce Arians, that's how he coaches everybody. I mean, there's no virgin meat left on your behind after you've been coached by Bruce Arians. He's going to let you know exactly the way it is. And that's authenticity. And guys that understand, they want their coaches to be authentic. I think that's the most important thing. And we see this all the time with new hires, guys that aren't comfortable in their own skin, that try to be somebody that they're not. Bruce Arians, that's the way he coaches. Tom Brady has always allowed himself to be coached hard, and in turn is coaching his players with his work ethic, with the way he shows up and the way he brings guys along. So a remarkable, remarkable season for Tampa Bay.
All right, before you go, I got a quick list for you. The 3 people in America who should feel the worst this morning. Number 1 is me.
Yes.
Number 2 is Bill Belichick. Number 3 is Kyle Shanahan / new Hall of Famer, our friend John Lynch. Belichick, because Brady wanted to stay. I know at the end, Brady puts his house on the market, he wants to leave, but he wanted to stay. He was clear about that, and Belichick said, nope, I think it's near the end of the road. Shanahan and Lynch, in that I think it's pretty well reported, Brady's first choice was San Francisco, and they looked and said, you know what, we're going to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. The younger guy, he just took us to a Super Bowl, we're going to stick with him. What do you think both of those parties, the Niners and Belichick, are feeling and thinking this morning?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately it's you said this while I was waiting to come on. It's remarkable. Like, the guy is not human. And I think you look at that and maybe you say, hey, you know what? I truly underestimated who Tom Brady is and what he's capable of. I tell you, the leadership thing for me is big. I know we constantly talk about leadership, and we think we know what it is, but we can't quite put our finger on it. When you elevate the level of everybody on your football team from the standpoint of not only their preparation, but how much they care and how much they're committed to one another and what they're willing to sacrifice for one another, that truly is the essence of leadership. And I will say this about Tom Brady, man. When I watch him and I see him interact with his teammates and the report of him texting guys at 11 o'clock at night saying, we're going to win this thing, going through everybody on the roster, this guy elevates everybody and he truly celebrates everybody else's success like it was his own. And that's why ultimately he's the GOAT. That's why guys will follow him.
Mark Schlereth, great player, extraordinary analyst, amazing father, husband, grandfather, and a terrible friend. Thank you, Sting. I will talk to you
got it,
later.
my friend. Take care.
Goodbye.